Hey everybody, Garrett here from AppMap, and I'd like to talk a little bit today about maintaining RESTful APIs and best practices. Specifically, we're going to talk about putting the wrong database actions into the wrong HTTP request verbs, specifically an update to whatever our data is inside of a GET request. The reason that's a problem is if we imagine for a second I'm the only one calling my API, I can call that API with a GET request and get information back. And depending on the parameters that I provided, I'll get the same information back every single time because it's doing a select based off of the information that I provided. And that should be read only. I shouldn't be updating or changing any data with those parameters or doing any other operations than go find me this data and give it back to me. In certain circumstances, and sometimes we run into a situation where somebody puts an update, like an insert or an update or something like that inside of a GET request handler, and that becomes a problem because if I can't guarantee that with the same parameters I'll get the same data back, we have a problem for everybody who's trying to use my API. It makes data integrity incredibly hard to maintain. It makes the application incredibly hard to maintain. And we found one here in this application, so let's go take a look at it. If I come to this application, it's just a sample Ruby on Rails application, and I run, just refresh the page, I can see that it's logging out an insert, and that's weird to me because what I should be getting is just this select. So let's go take a look. And rather than digging through our code and trying to figure out where it is, we're going to use AppMap because AppMap, as great as it is at mapping an application, it also comes out of the box with something called runtime analysis. And that runtime analysis tool is incredibly powerful. We can provide it with a list of rules, and it will go look for flaws in our application and provide us information about those flaws, where to find them, where they are in code, etc., and can help us fix them. So since it works at runtime, I went ahead and ran AppMap over the top of that application. And if we look right here in this runtime analysis tab, let's go ahead and close the instructions tab, close that. Runtime analysis tab, we get an overview, which is great. It can show us information about it, or we can look directly for what our issue is that we're trying to find, which in our case, update performed in GET or head request. It's exactly what we want to look for. And it looks like AppMap found it in 5 different applications or 5 different maps, 5 different processes that the application is running. So let's go take a look. And we can see right here that SQL insert into the analytics database with an IP address created at all that kind of information. And we can see if we scroll back that it is in a GET request. So that insert is happening when a GET request is called. We don't want that. Let's go see if we can try and find and fix it. Okay, so if we come up here and we look at the caller, and just so everybody knows, what I did is I went over here to the side panel and I clicked on the caller and it jumped me in the call stack or this trace view. What called that? From here, I'm gonna go look at my code and I can see, let's go ahead and close this. I can see active support. Active support is part of active record, which is a core utility function or core dependency of Ruby on Rails, right? So if I look at this, this is not my code. This invoke before, this is Ruby's code. But invoke before, I know happens similar to before each, before I run anything. So let's see if we can go try and find it. We know it's coming from a dependency. So let's go look. We have our HTTP request. I went ahead and switched over to the dependency map. And we're going to click on our GET request. And we're going to click on action pack, that part of that overall active record plugin, essentially, not plugin, dependency. If we click on where our GET request gets funneled to, we can see a couple different things. All of these are mainly internal or a logger into an action that we don't have control over, but one of them goes up to our app controller. So we click on that app controller and we can see, let me just zoom out a little bit. We can see 3 different options for controllers. And so let's scroll in and let's go to our dashboard controller. Inside of our dashboard controller, we can see this skip before action. And we see that it's inheriting something from the application controller. So let's go take a look. Let's go look at our application controller. Our application controller has before action. That's exactly what was happening, right? The before action call. And we see this create analytic. And I think it's right there. So let's copy this. And if we notice something, if we go back to our dashboard controller, we can actually skip that. So let's skip that, save that, flip back over to our application and refresh. And we don't get that insert anymore. So in this particular instance, I probably would have left it because it's logging every single user that comes to our site, which I'm actually fine with. It's logging every single request we get. But that is how you fix it and find it using AppMap. The key here is the finding. So thanks everybody, and we'll see.